Good morning, episode 104. Welcome to this Intuitive Public Radio, and we have some important items this morning to review. What an amazing collection of adventures we have been on in recent days, and we can make that distinction particularly on the basis of how long we've been doing what we're doing and how powerful recent changes are proving to be. It's been an interesting experience to review our collected materials, our various documentations. Since certain repair processes have been achieved, we are grateful to all those who have been facilitating true intuitive recovery. There are more and more people now starting to recognize how crucial this is in all our communities. A primary conversation is that the mischaracterization of neurological injury and physical trauma serves the interests of known active human trafficking organizations, including the ones that I found myself in contact with and the ones I am now tracking in our network with the survivor-led groups of this intuitive community. Many of us have had the fundamentally transformative experience of discovering that our families have been multi-generationally entrenched in this. I am relieved to be able to communicate the broader details of it in ways that I could not while more direct violence was occurring, and many of our group members say the same. A few of my family members have come close enough to start to learn how these and similar misunderstandings resulted in my being sex trafficked. I'm grateful to them, and of course, I and others feel pain where our family members and community members still do not realize the trafficking pathways we've been living our lives in the midst of. Our whole extended family, in so many cases, our whole seemingly accessible community, in so many cases, different for each individual, and yet the similarities across varying contexts can be astonishing when you first come into contact with them. All the seemingly stable environments that we have all become involved in over the course of our lives must be re-examined. The physical safety of the most vulnerable members of our communities, children, elders, and everyone affected, whether they realize it or not, by neurological injury. There are a few different conversations that connect to this place. And we've been recovering through and recovering function through the challenges of communicating it. We have been recovering through and recovering function through restoring access to many different kinds of prayerfulness. And one of our prayerfulnesses is for collective and individual recognition in all of our environments. Prayerfulness that families will be able to hear and witness one another with respect and kindness and patience, and a desire to resolve all of this. There are excellent solutions and excellent means of community stabilization as soon as we're all more fully aware of them. This brings us to our present conversations about what are called the Indian residential schools, which are death camps, and have not been employed in as limited a way as they are being communicated across most media. The methodologies used in the midst of the residential school death camps and many other what do I want to say? Weaponized locations? Weaponized locations sounds right to me. Where the same techniques are in use to control populations and confuse and disable families and communities with the purpose of turning living beings into robots that can be programmed successfully. And when you're talking about what it takes to program a living being successfully, if you don't want that living being to do anything that conflicts with your plans, we're talking about techniques in use that employ a lot of direct and ambient different kinds of physical violence. The residential schools were described as beneficial educational institutions. Our learning together requires respect, safety, and communications inclusion. When we have optimal learning environments, many problems and conflicts simply disappear, which is why it is not in the interests of human trafficking organizations to ensure safe, inclusive learning environments, but the appearance of safety and the appearance of inclusion are used prolifically in the hopes that we will mistake what trafficking organizations are offering for our own emergent, intuitive solutions in our community settings. We have asked frequently, is there a reason that the residential schools are not continually in our focus, considering how deeply they are related to all the contexts that we are discussing ongoing? And we are often asking one another, more or less in one-sided conversations, unfortunately, but that's changing. What is the missing understanding between me and someone else, between us and between us, that would allow you to see how deeply related residential school death camps are to every single conversation we've been having across this network, I personally don't think I can even think of a conversation they shouldn't be centered in. We can practice together to find out if I'm right. But one way or the other, the conversations must happen and continue happening. All of the schooling that we have looked at is based on more or less similar principles. And the degree to which educational environments are participating in such things is an important subject of inquiry for all of us in the network, co-founding groups across the network, and also people who never heard of the network before need to understand this. Most particularly need to understand this. Without contact with the most severely affected survivors in and around your community, you will be missing crucial information and survival leverage when you and all your environments are being targeted by global and local human trafficking organizations. When others are not responding to what we're saying, when we are at our most simplest and clearest, they are in a position where they expressly need to understand how deep these connections go. Otherwise, they may have no idea that their performances of care are hypocrisy and pretending. None of us wants to discover that we have been that way. We are all, everybody that I know is always striving to be most honorable and true to themselves and to one another. That's what I'm experiencing in relationship with other living beings. And yet, the techniques that trafficking organizations have employed to separate us from one another and to separate us from ourselves are quite effective in a variety of ways. And so we have had to track exactly what is occurring and exactly how it is initiated so that we would have any chance of extracting ourselves from it. These systems have been active all our lives and are still active. We want to really look closely at the many, many situations where people want to be aware of what's happening around them and seem not to quite be able to close the gap in communications, where people are repeating signals that suggest they care for their communities and environments, but are not yet fully aware of how the same systems that created the residential school death camps are acting in all our professional, academic, and community care environments now, which severely disabled sex trafficking survivors in particular have been calling out and wish to be in real dialogue with all others about for all our safety and thriving. If we miss this part, perhaps nothing else we try will work, and communications will have to be abandoned for physical safety. Maybe you've experienced this. You want to be in contact with someone, you care about someone, but they are behaving in a way that you don't know how to deal with. What should you do? Who will help you? No one explains it to you. There's no one there to bridge the communications. And so relationships are abandoned. People talk about being ghosted. There are many ways that people reference how suddenly their friendships disappear and they just don't understand what happened. your local and non-local human trafficking pathways are immediately relevant to this. And we have to look at them to fix it. It turns out it's not necessary for us to abandon one another if we are sharing information and lived experience in effective ways. And we have had to build effective communications technology, effective communications strategies in community environments that would allow us to recognize and eliminate human trafficking pathways. We have a great incentive to share this with everybody who is wise enough to listen. When we connect these understandings about how schooling is being manipulated, about how trafficking pathways are embedded in all environments until we choose as communities to deconstruct them. When we connect these subjects to all other subjects, it means that people have a much greater opportunity to really understand what we're saying and why we're saying it this way. But this is a crucial point of education that has been intentionally obfuscated by those who would not benefit from us talking about it. If we fail to bring this connection into every conversation, it leaves a huge gap in comprehension of how this violence is continuing to occur in literally every, wow. Any conversation where you're having trouble, this is medicine for it. And we doubted that at first. We hesitated to say it. And then it was increasingly proven to us day after day after day after day. And I am still experiencing that. Why are the residential school death camps in Canada, in the US, and certainly in many other places immediately and importantly relevant to every conversation we have across this intuitive community network? Supported private and public media discussions about residential school death camps are necessary. And even more so, these discussions must fully include survivors of those camps and of related violence. Discourse of this kind reveals active human trafficking pathways and the solutions thereto in all our professional, academic, and community care environments. The absence of this safe, inclusive discourse perpetuates increasing and often invisible damages to all members of a community and to all the living beings in contact with that community. When these conversations are not occurring fully inclusively, survivors of violence are prevented from accessing what are otherwise considered to be commonly available community resources and experience compounding harms to their bodies, their families, and the whole community. Full awareness of the human trafficking pathways in your community spaces requires an understanding of what happened in the residential schools, what happened past tense, and what's happening now using the same techniques in spaces that are very much like those residential schools that are described as if they are only part of history. How these methods are still being used today, how we all suffer needlessly as a result of failing to address the patterns set in motion and damages that continue ongoing. until we address them. When we center safe, inclusive communications about the residential school death camps, it is no longer possible for human traffickers to operate in our environments. Our conclusion is that it's time to have better, kinder, braver conversations. And as we do, you will notice, Gesundheit, that you are powerful. You may not feel very powerful, but you are powerful. Your presence and your resonance help to heal where healing is needed. And you will find out that this is easier and more accessible than you have previously been led to believe. I could end our broadcast here, and I'm tempted to. Stretching and breathing are needed, but I feel not quite complete. Let's find together completeness. Part 1, how to identify and eliminate all local trafficking embeds. Many people experience a deep discomfort with these conversations and feel really major feelings in their bodies. And it is somewhat likely that you are one of those people, because we're everywhere. And survivors of sex trafficking are not excluded from that. Many of us cannot really process what we're discovering, what we're learning from our bodies and from our environments until we have sufficient collective, reflective resonance in supported, safe, inclusive social circumstances to rebuild the neurology in our bodies and in our communities that is expressly targeted by trafficking organizations. When people are uncomfortable with this, it is because their environments are overrun with visible or invisible trafficking activities. That is a fact we have had to contend with. I have notes that say this is literally the actual reason why this is happening this way. It still feels like we need to shake. And shaking is a good trauma relief activity if you're doing it intentionally and consensually and with mindfulness and love for your physical body. Oh, that feels good. I recommend it. Blessings to shaking. People need to have ways to have these conversations, and we always have to decide how much effort to put into helping them when us helping them damages and endangers us considerably until the point where they have sufficient understanding that they can be in true, consistent, respectful dialogue with us and really know that that's what's happening. So one of the ways that we approach this is by helping from our public platforms, which we have had to construct from scratch over and over and over and over again, while dying repeatedly and being unrecognized in all of our environments. And yet somehow we have done it anyway. It's much safer for us to help from public and community platforms than by expending energy trying to interact more directly or interpersonally or privately. But of course, part of the methodology of trafficking organizations is to target our media privilege, to target our access to social authority. If we can participate in any sense of social authority, in any sense of media privilege, we would have communications modalities that would stop us from being trafficked. And so we've been building that. The people who can't talk about this are being trafficked. If we fail to realize that the people unable to talk about this are being trafficked, then we will also fail to realize where traffickers are operating in our environments. So we bridge this gap. When we continuously underscore the important points about residential school death camps that have been operating and under whatever name or label are still operating. And when we support these conversations with situational solutions and helpful materials and resource access, caring conversations, trust litmus, relationship building, that's trauma repair. That's repair of our physical bodies. And that allows us to have much more successful and productive conversations. Where people in communities push back on this, it's because there is trafficking violence that they are not able to tell us about. And this happens in situations that appear very privileged, and also moderately privileged, and also underprivileged. In every situation that you might encounter, there may be trafficking pathways for you to identify and eliminate, but you must first be aware of how those pathways are created and how they are invisibly facilitated so that most members of a community don't know that they're there. If you don't know where the trafficking violence is in a particular situation, we have a ton of material in the knowledge base to help us identify pathways basically anywhere. We must always ensure that we are patient and calm, organized, gentle with one another. And this allows us to notice and build our understandings of how violence is compounding in any environment. I am noticing the conversations to which this conversation necessarily leads. I'm organizing my cognitive capacities Blessings to your morning. Thank you for listening to this broadcast. All questions and inquiries, requests, offers of assistance, words of encouragement, courageous donations of your time or of financial resourcing. All of these things help us do the work that we're doing. And you can be part of this increasingly. Our ongoing documentation of global and local human trafficking pathways continues via t.me/intuitive public radio. The website is at intuitive.pub/radio. You can follow more, reach out to assist, and ask for help as needed by joining t.me/community IPR. And we hope to see you there. How do we feel about the completeness of these communications? Well, there's a reason that we created radio platforms. We're going to keep talking.